Kitts, those who are listening in the wider Caribbean. Good evening to our friends and family in places like the United States Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, of course, the British Virgin Islands as well. Good evening to you in a place like Montserrat and Station, Sabre, St. Martin, Sunshine City. Wherever you are listening, good evening to you. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States and Canada. Those across the pond in the United Kingdom, members of the diaspora who tune in regularly to this show, who call in and share their views. I am delighted to be with you again. My name is Mark Brantley, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. If I look a little disheveled, because I used to be able to come here looking anyway and dressed anyway, but now Von Radio has stepped up, so we are now live, streaming live on Von Radio's page on Facebook. And so if I look slightly disheveled, please forgive me. I've had a long day. I was in Nevis for cabinet, then went St. Kitts for cabinet. Then there was a reception this evening to mark the National Day of Taiwan, and I attended very briefly just to pay my respects, and then of course had to get the boat over and get here on time to be here for the show. So kindly forgive me. I promise that next time I'll try to look a little more presentable. But you're not here to watch me, you're here to hopefully listen to what the callers have to say, and we will open the lines, of course, shortly. As usual, at the top of the show, I do a few things. I like to call it my soliloquy. So part of my soliloquy, let me start with wishing the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan, a wonderful National Day, 10-10 as they're calling it. And I want to wish them all the very best. They have been not only a good friend to St. Kitts and Nevis, but our best friend. They have been there for us over the past 36 years. And we continue to be loyal partners to them. And we thank them for their partnership. And we thank them for the cooperation that we've shared over all these 3.5 decades. To the people, to the government and people of Taiwan, to our nationals who are out there studying even now, and for their listening, happy National Day. I wish them all the very best. And it's being celebrated on 10-10. And so, as I say, happy 10-10, the National Day. And so we look forward certainly to continuing our rich relationship with the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan. On that celebratory note, let me send birthday greetings out to my darling, my dear, Shirley Glasgow, right there in Bath Village. She told me I couldn't say how old she was. What I will say, she doesn't look a day over 21. Shirley, if you're listening, I want to wish you a very happy birthday. I hope you had a wonderful day today. You are a wonderful person. You've always been there for me, and I want to thank you and celebrate with you. I can't be there having a drink or a little cake with you, but I trust and hope that you had a wonderful day today, and that your family, your sons, and your little granddaughter, my lovely godchild, that they treated you wonderfully for this, your special day. So Shirley Glasgow celebrating today. Hip hip hooray! Happy birthday, Shirley. I wish you all the best. For those of you who are out there who are also celebrating, I may not have got a memo, but I would want to wish you a happy birthday as well. So, a lot has been happening. The country has been going through quite a bit of discussion and debate that has been ongoing. You know, elections are in the air, and when that happens, one expects that there will be debates, there will be differences of opinion, there will be agreements and disagreements. I continue to encourage our people to remember that we live in a mature democracy, to remember that views and opinions are welcomed. But we must understand that we can disagree without being disagreeable. We must understand that we all do not need to support the same party, nor do we need to have the same viewpoint. That there's a richness in the differences of opinion, because sometimes I say that 1 + 1 is equal to 3, and I'm convinced that that is so. But if I'm prepared to listen to the other side, who is equally convinced that 1 + 1 is equal to 2, I may well learn something and correct my ways. And so I have always taken a view that I'm not inclined to get into any long arguments or any difficult discussions with people. I believe that when you're in government, as I am, that you must have a record on which you can run. And an election is coming to determine the federal government in this country. And whenever that election comes, The Concerned Citizens Movement will do as it has always done, run on its record of achievements, its record of respecting the people of Nevis, its record of strong, honest, capable leadership of the people of Nevis, and its record of always putting our people first. That has been our ethos and our mantra over these years. When we say people matter most, it's because we mean it, and we have demonstrated that we mean it. Whether it is training, development, education of our young people, whether it is providing opportunities for them, whether it is providing jobs even for members of the opposition, whether it is promulgating the One Nevis concept and saying that all of our people matter, not just some, whether it's embracing the people in the diaspora and telling them that they are as important to us as the people here, because we are all one people, separated as we are sometimes by ocean, but nevertheless one people, one heartbeat, one set of people. The CCM has always stood up for all of our people, and that has been us, and we will continue to stand up for our people. And at the end of the day, the people themselves will decide whether or not that has been good enough. And I have always said that the voice of the people is the voice of God. And in a democracy, once elections are free and fair, we must listen to that voice and understand that they ultimately are the arbiters. They are the judges. They will make the decision ultimately that they feel is best for them. And who am I to say that that is a wrong decision? So I always respect that. And I feel that if all of us respect the electorate, understand that ultimately the electorate will make a decision that is in their best interest, then all we must do is do our best and leave the rest to the electorate. That is all. So I don't go into elections with any fear. I believe that I have an English tongue in my head, and that the people of Nevis speak English, and that I must therefore come to the people using that English tongue that I have been given, speaking that English language that I know and understand, and articulate my views and opinions to them, our record of achievements, and yes, sometimes our failures, perhaps to explain why we failed in some aspects, and make the case to them. I don't need to get into any bashing of any individual or get into any personal issue. I don't care who did with who and who was seen coming out of whose house. That is of no interest to me, nor should it be of any interest to you. I am concerned about people's record. If they have shown you who they are because they were in government and they used government for their personal benefit, that's their record. And when a man shows you who he is, believe him. I am concerned about what people say their plans are. If you have a plan and you bring that plan forward, then that is what I'm concerned about. I'm getting into the foolishness and the vitriol that I see some people try to generate and get people to hate people. Hate people over what? Over politics? My friends, if you decide to hate anybody over politics, that's your business. But I have no room in my heart for hatred towards any man. None. I believe that we have differences of opinion, different viewpoints, and that is not only necessary, it should be welcomed in a democracy. And that is why on this show, I believe this is why this show has survived so long, It's, I believe, next to Let's Talk, one of the longest running shows in the entire country. Why? Because on this show, we accept and indeed encourage all shades of opinion. The debate is welcomed. People call in, they have different viewpoints. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, we must trust the electorate. Trust them. That is why in all my years in politics, I have never sought to register anybody illegally. Tell them to go and register where they do not live. I have never sought to engage in any of the skullduggery that some people engage in at election time. You know why? Because ultimately, I trust the electorate. And if you go to people, because people can see through you, People know who's real and who's not. And so I don't allow the chatter and the effort by others to define me. I know me. And when I go and I make my case to people, I think that the people know me also. They know me. They come, they have their discussions with me. They understand it when they bring a problem to me. If I can solve it, I solve it. And if I cannot, I'm forthright with them and say, I cannot. And that is the nature of my engagement. And that is the ethos that has always informed the Concerned Citizens Movement. Are we perfect? Of course not. I remind everybody that the only two perfect people ever created were Adam and Jesus. And we crucified one of them. So, perfection is not a part of humanity. And let us therefore remember that mistakes will be made. Difficulties will arise. This year has been one of the most difficult and challenging years for any government of Nevis. We haven't had hurricanes hit us, thank God, and we pray that we have none for the rest of the year. But we had the twin whammy, if you will. 4 seasons closed for 4 months. Then on a Friday afternoon when people getting ready for Culturama, call center advise that after a decade plus they're shutting down. 128 people out of bread. Many people predicted that Nevis would collapse. But what did I do? I did the only thing I know how. I was forthright, direct, and I didn't try to hide or obfuscate. I told the people what was going on, what the challenges were, and through the grace of God, here we are. We were in the Parliament just yesterday, and I made a statement on the matter of 4 seasons, because even now people continue to try to make political mischief, telling workers at 4 seasons all manner of evil. And I asked the right-thinking members of this community, I asked the very workers at 4 seasons, what more could a government have done? When the hotel advised that they would be closed for 4 months, I didn't hide it away and make pretense. As soon as I knew it was happening, I went to the public, and in the very House of Parliament, in the debates of last year's budget, I made the announcement, giving 6 months' notice of the impending closure. What did I say? I said to the workers, listen, some famine is going to come. And since 4 seasons says that we are now in the winter 2018, and they're expecting a bumper crop, a harvest like no other, then reap heavily and store up some grain for the famine that's going to come. You know, I went to Sunday school. Pastor Kelly may not be completely happy with how I've turned out, but I can tell him I used to listen to him right there at the Amos Chapel. And later, when my mother took me to the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, I used to listen to Brother Boland and my good friend Tony Nisbet and Brother Paxson. All of these, Hilton Lawson, listen to them. I used to give my little talk too, you know. Oh yes, study and give my little talk. So I am not without some semblance of learning in the good book and what it says. And when we hear about famine is coming, we all know that you store up your grain so that you can weather the storm. When you hear hurricane is coming, you go to the supermarket, you get your tin goods, you get your flashlight, you get your batteries, you get yourself ready. And that is what I was seeking to say to the people of Nevis. Get ready, because some difficult days lie ahead. I didn't pretend. I was forthright. That to me is what leadership has to do. Because when people know that there's a problem, people are more inclined to try to understand and to deal with that problem. And that was the philosophy. My cabinet met, and we decided, and we made that disclosure. What did we do? What did we do? We discussed with 4 seasons. 4 seasons said they will pay the affected workers 25% of their usual wage. They said that that 25% in their estimation equated what they would have made in any event in the summer months when there are few tourists, and they would have sometimes just 2 days per week. Whether they were absolutely correct on that, I do not know. I recall we asked the 4 seasons, could you do more? Could you do 40%? They said no, they could only do 25%. Bearing in mind that they didn't have to do anything at all, we said to ourselves, okay, what else? 4 seasons said the people will continue to be treated as employed. There will be no disruption They'll continue to get their medical and other benefits. And so we then set about to say, well, how could we do more as a government? I wrote to every single bank and financial institution in Nevis. I asked each and every one, National, Scotia, First Caribbean, Credit Union, Finco, FND. I said, could you please give some accommodation? I can't tell them to do it because they're not government institutions. But I asked of them, as the Premier and Minister of Finance of the island of Nevis, could you give these workers an accommodation? And I can confirm that most, some didn't respond. I will not get into those that didn't respond. But most responded and said that they will either allow workers to pay interest only, and in the case of one institution, they say they will waive all payments for the period of the 4 months. We didn't stop there. The government took a decision, the cabinet, that we would waive any tax like social severance, what they call social levy, on the 25%. And I then wrote to Social Security and supported the request after discussions with Four Seasons to exempt the 25% from any Social Security deductions. And so the effort was that the workers would go home with the full amount that they received. The effort was with the banks and the financial houses that they would give some ease, not pressure these workers because we understand they were going through some difficulty. The Four Seasons advised that the homeowners would put together a pool of funds. Turned out that was $150,000 US. That too was divided evenly among these workers. And then as back to school expenses loomed, this government, having had a difficult period all year, the cabinet sat and decided, what could we do? And we decided to award a one-time grant of $1,000 to each and every one of those workers to assist with back-to-school expenses. At every step of the way, my government was seeking to protect, partner with, shield the workers. Those were our priority. And I see all kinds of people said all kinds of things. At every step they criticize. We opted to do this $1,000 grant to each of the workers. People start to cuss, oh, what if they don't have children? Oh, you should have done it this way. Oh, you should have done it that way. Government that cares about people does the best that it can for those people. That's what it does. And I want to be clear because we didn't have no photo up, you know. We didn't use Four Seasons workers for no photo opportunity. We didn't go down with cameras blazing and say, come in, come and get your payment and take picture with the Premier. No. This was something done to help them, and we set up the mechanism and say, please, go ahead and collect your check because we want to provide some ease. And at every step, ladies and gentlemen, we continue to check with Four Seasons. How is the progress? Are you going to open a schedule? And I was pleased yesterday in the Parliament to say that the Four Seasons have kept their word and they reopened the doors of that property on October 1st. I was so pleased that I went down there and was on hand to welcome the first two guests, a couple from Memphis, Tennessee. The hotel is not yet quite ready because some areas are still having construction done. But the owners, in partnership with not just the government, but with the workers and with Nevis, took back their workers since the middle of September, started the training and the retraining. And I said to the workers at Four Seasons, we tried our best. We did the best that we could have done. And you must think for yourselves as to who had ultimately your interest at heart. Because at the end of the day, come September morning, you walk back into your job. You never lost your job. You were never severed. You walked back into the job that was there for you. And the Four Seasons having now reopened as they said they would, you the people have taken the licks, of course, over the last 4 months. But you are now back at work. Four Seasons is telling us from December until July of next year, they have the most robust bookings they've seen in 15 years. If that pans out and turns out to be right, through the grace of God, I hope that everyone will make some money and that everyone will be back on an even keel. That is what you run on. As a government, you run on your record. You run on what you have done when times were hard. Did you run away? Did you get the first plane and decide, I am not here, I can't be found, I'm not answering my phone? No. You stand up and you face the fire. That's what a leader does. You stand up and you face and you have honest discussions with your people. Some going to cuss you. Lord, you know, Nevis people like to cuss. Sometimes I wonder, I have a meeting on my own team and the amount of what I get from them, sometimes I say, Lord, I ease up. I'm not NRP, you know. But that is the nature of Nevis. But when you're forthright with people, when you answer them honestly, when you try your best not to bamboozle people, people at the end of the day may not always agree with you, but they recognize that you have the qualities of a leader. And that is what we have done. That is what we have done. And that is why the people of Nevis have rewarded the CCM team from 1992 until 2006. They were in government. And when they lost government through happenstance in 2006, we were back in government by 2013 and back again in 2017. And it says something that the Nevis Reformation Party, that once proud party, now reduced to ashes here on the island of Nevis, that party has only been able to win, in inverted commas, one election since 1992. One election in the last 27 years. That speaks for itself. And I think the people of Nevis have spoken time and time again that the CCM is a team that they trust, the team that has been able to attract talent, the team that has candidates and candidates in waiting, the team which has a cupboard that is full of talent and continues even today to attract new people to the team. And so an election is going to come, and we will go forth and we will talk to our people, all of our people, reason with them, those who support us and those who do not, those at home and those abroad. We will speak to everyone. And that is why recently the CCM led government. I took a team to New York with me, and we went to New York, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, the Honorable Spencer Brand, and myself, for the specific reason of speaking to the people out there and reminding them that we have not forgotten their contribution, nor will we or can we forget their contribution to us. They are of us. They are us. And I see no difference between a Nevision in Charlestown and a Nevision in Brooklyn. No difference. Because when you start to say that people are different, you're starting us and them, it creates problems. And I see our people. You hear what I promote? One Nevis. And what I seek to do is to encourage our Nevisians abroad. Send home your money. We got banks here. Bank of Nevis is a great bank. National Bank, First Caribbean, Scotia, Credit Union, RBTT. Send home your money. Help us build Nevis. Come home, buy a piece of land, build a house. Sometimes I go to America here, well-to-do Nevisians, because a lot of our people are doing well. They say they have a house in Florida, they have one in New York too. I say, well, my God, why you build one in Florida? Build one back home. Let us encourage our people. They have a role to play in the development of our island. You know how much talent we have in Canada? How much talent we have in America? The UK? Nurses, doctors, professors, academics, engineers. We can't turn our backs on our people. We must encourage our people to be a part of our development. And that is what I continue to say. So when you see CCM, the big blue machine, hits the road, we are on the road for everybody. We are on the road for even those who do not support us, because all of us have a contribution to make. And I know sometimes I get myself in trouble, you know. When I talk about Juan Nieves, some CCM people push up their face. I know that. They get upset with me because we have become accustomed to a culture. It's a winner take all. And that no matter how qualified somebody who supports the opposition may be, that we don't give them an opportunity. And I have said no. I need all hands on deck, and the only way you get all hands on deck is to get the best people that you can get pulling together. I am not suggesting that I'm going to tolerate people who come in to seek to undermine the effort. But if people are willing to work, willing to put their shoulders to the wheel, willing to get results for the island of Nevis, not for Mark Brantley, because I'm transient. Some of us, when we get into government or we get into places of power, privilege and prestige, we start to act as if God has willed it to us. Well, not Mark Brantley. I am transient. I want everybody to understand that I know that there will be a time when I will have to go. Some go willingly, some are pushed by the electorate. And I hope that I will go willingly. I will not wait for the people of Nevis to push me. And once you have that philosophy that guides you, you have nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Because you have no fear. You have come to make your contribution. I say it all the time, all of life is a stage. We all have our entrance and we have our exit. The only thing that matters in our life is what do we do when we are on the stage. So those who are coming in, come, you're welcome. And those who have exited, do not look back over your shoulder with regret and grudge and worry and envy. No, you have left the stage. Let those who are on the stage perform, and let the people judge their performance, good or bad. And those who are on the stage, get into your head that you're not there forever, and that at some point you too must make your exit. Why should you be upset about that? He who comes after is always mightier. I believe it is the good book that tells us so. And if I'm wrong, Pastor Kelly, please forgive me. He who comes after is always mightier. So what that tells you is that people are always coming after. You ought not to concern yourself with that. You ought to concern yourself purely with what have you done during your time on stage. And that is your legacy. And so, all that is said about me, I can tell you, I know that I am transient. I know nothing has been willed to me. And I have said to my supporters, I have said to the people of Nevis, I have said to the nation of St. Kitts and Nevis, I have come for a time such as this to make a contribution. And when I am tired, or the people are tired of me, I will make my exit. And others will come, stronger, smarter, brighter, more technologically savvy than I could ever be. I shouldn't grudge them. They're younger than me. They got more energy than me. They're better looking than me. They could talk better than me. They're dressed better than me. What am I going to grudge them for? I done make my contribution. And I think if we think like that, if we appreciate that all of us have a chance in this life to be on a stage, it may not be politics. It may be in the church. You and I witnessed something the other day. And I hope that this family, a family I respect and hold in the highest esteem, would not be upset with me. But I attended some of the Shiloh Baptist Church, a church that I have tremendous respect for. I'm not a member, but every time I go there, they make me feel like I'm a member. Wonderful people. And I went there and I saw something which to me was so moving. It was Pastor Maynard, the elder, passing the baton to Pastor Maynard, the junior. And I said, look at that. Look at that. It does not mean that Pastor Maynard, the elder, becomes irrelevant. No, he's there to provide advice and guidance as a senior person in the church. But he recognized that the energy that was required the youthfulness, the vim, vigor, and vitality that his son now possesses those qualities. And I am sure that in the fullness of time, Pastor Maynard Jr. will see it fit to pass on to someone younger. That is the nature of life. If you're going to fight that, then you're fighting life itself. And that is why I am satisfied with where I am, what my plans are, and where I hope to be. Satisfied that I am transient, and I believe every politician, every individual involved in some sphere of endeavor, in business, whatever you call it, must recognize that you are there but for a time. And that God, that merciful God, he builds up and he takes down. He builds up leaders and he takes down. We ought not to be, when we are built up, think it is our own doing. Of course not. It is he who builds up rulers and takes them down. We must understand that all of us are transient. And if you have that firm acceptance and that informs who you are, you need not run a race with a soul. You do the best that you can. You be honest, forthright, and direct with people. You be decent in your dealings with people. You hold aught against no man. And at the end of it all, the people will decide for how long you remain on that stage. Simple. Doesn't require rocket scientists to figure that out. And so, for those who continually seek to spend time trying to define me, I say to you, I define me. And I know what it is that I am doing. And through my leadership, together with the members of my cabinet, I know that when we meet and seek to come up with decisions that are in the best interests of the people of this wonderful island of Nevis and in the wider federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. That's what we're seeking to do. And that's what we'll continue to do. And I believe that the people will reward that type of leadership. Leadership that is not petty. Leadership that is not insecure. Leadership that doesn't begrudge the success of others. You will hear me from time to time talk about the successes of Alexis Jeffers, the successes of Eric Evelyn, the successes of Spencer Brannan, Troy Liebert, and Hazel Brandy Williams, the successes of my team. There's no I in team, you know. I lead the team. But at the end of the day, it's a team. And a team, we know, just like a chain, is only as strong as the weakest link. And so, if Eric Evelyn does something that we must celebrate, he had a great culture armor. Well, I can't dance like Eric. So what we must go do? Jump up in front to try and say I'm the leader, so I must walk up more than Eric? Me can't do it. Who in the world could walk up more than Eric? Eric is a dancer par excellence. I know my limitations. So all I do is I clap with everybody and say, boy, Eric, you're the greatest minister of culture. I was the minister of culture. Last term, I was the minister of culture, and I have hold no water in my mouth to say, the man has eclipsed me. Nothing is wrong with that, because he who comes after is what? Mightier. My job as the leader of the team is to pull out the best in every member of the team. My job is to say to Alexis Jeffers, my brother, I have gone over to Cedar Grove, I think that's what he's called it, Cedar View, I'm sorry. I have gone there, and it is one of the finest housing developments, not only in Nevis, but in the country. And if you're not careful, one of the best housing developments I've seen in the Caribbean that is government built. Beautiful. I happened to travel through there with 3 representatives from the Commonwealth. 2 ladies from Africa, 1 from Jamaica, and they said to me that they could not believe that this was government built housing. They have never seen anything like it. Beautiful neighborhood. So I must not say in public that Alexis Jeffers is doing a great job, and big him up and strengthen him and let him know that I have his back. That's what a leader does. Troy Liebert, made his mark in public works and infrastructure, Hanley's Road, Braziers. I asked him to take on the most challenging ministry in his government, education. Since he's been there, the schools are being refurbished. So I must not stand up in public and say, Troy, you're doing an excellent job. Here's the Brandy Williams, just got back here. She went to Africa, to Kenya. You know what she has reported? That because of his involvement with gender and for women, she has now been selected to be the focal point, the spokesperson, the main woman, the topper for the OECS on these issues. So I mustn't tell Hazel, you're doing a good job. Hazel, I celebrate you. You're doing an excellent job. When I look at Spencer Brand paved off a whole road down the Chapel Street. People wake up the next morning and find the road done. Brown Hill Road, Mondo Track Road, Craddock Road. And I mustn't tell Spencer, my brother, as a newcomer, you're batting like a veteran. That is what a leader is supposed to do. Build up the people around you. Build your team. I can't be vexed with Alexis because Alexis is doing well. Alexis is part of my team. I am happy that he's doing well. And if people out there say, give him another term because he's doing well, I am glad to hear that because it makes my life easier. Because I know he's going to support me as I support him. That is how the thing works, you know. There's no magic to this. Because your light can shine bright without dimming my light. Let us understand that. Your light can shine bright without dimming my light. When you go to the Mondo Track, all the floodlights are on. All of them shining bright. You see anyone is dimming the other? No. Together, they shine so bright that they make out there at night look like day. That is what teamwork calls for. That is what real leadership calls for. That you work together, you build each other, you encourage each other, and you go and never tire of going in the public domain and building up your team. Whenever any of my team do something wrong and that I don't like, I pull them in and I speak to them privately. I'm not coming on a radio station. I'm not going in no newspaper or no Facebook. I'm not going to use no fake profile on Facebook to attack any member of my team. It's not going to happen. And if you are around me and you wish to attack members of my team, understand that as a leader of CCM, that is not on. I am not encouraging that or welcoming that. As a matter of fact, if you know what's good for you, please stop. Because that is what leadership is about. Leadership that seeks to inspire confidence. And you must be confident in yourself, you know, if you're going to encourage confidence in others. You must be sure of yourself. Some call me all the time, you know, they see me, they say, watch he like you got on in his socks and his suit and them boasting fella. I tell people all the time, do not mistake confidence for arrogance. There's a fundamental difference. Never mistake confidence for arrogance. There is a fundamental difference. I am confident because I know me. I know what is in my head and what is in my heart. And so I don't bother with the chatter. I have something that I say all the time, ignore the noise and focus. And if more of us ignore the noise and focus, we wouldn't get caught up in all the little ray-ray. Because ultimately it benefits none of us. And that is what we must seek to do. And I just want to remind us all that when you have a history, when you have a record, people have seen me, you know. People have seen me. When I went Greenlands Park, when people were wondering if unity was real, and I went there, I was the one who introduced Timothy Harris as the next Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I had occasion to go on social media recently and say, lest we forget. Because sometimes you hear people talking now as if they either have forgotten or perhaps they were never around, so they don't know. The struggles, the people who are in the trenches fighting with you. I mentioned, for example, Oscar Astro Brown. I mentioned Sunday. I mentioned Troy. I mentioned Timothy Keynes, Fitzroy. I mentioned people like that. You know why? And me and them got falling out all the time. We fall in and we fall out. But you know why I mentioned them? Because when the battle was hottest, the fiercest battle, when I was taking incoming fire, those were the people on a boat with me coming across the Narrows at 2 o'clock in the morning. Those were the people who I saw coming across with me, Alexis Jeffers. And I believe that we ought to speak these things, because some now seem to me like they want to engage in revisionist, what do they call it? Revisionist, sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up. Revisionist history. They want to take the history and turn it upside down. And they want to give credit where none is due and take credit from where it is due. And I'm saying, no, don't do that. Because people were there. Thank God now we got YouTube, we got Facebook, we got all kind of things. Soon as you say, hey, a man take your picture, a man take your video. So there's no place now for that. It's not like when they say, Bratcher say, bones in your rice and pepper in your soup, and nobody has a recording of him saying so. Nobody could tell you where he said so. Now everything is on YouTube. So people know, they see, they can feel, they can touch, they can experience. So why try to engage in a revision of our recent history? We all know. We know who was there. We know who struggled. We saw. We heard. We know. There was a point, and I say it because it is true, that at unity meetings in St. Kitts, they used to start the rumor in the crowd, the sheriff is coming. The sheriff is coming. And I used to come over. The only politician in modern times to have done that. Why? You think I didn't want to go home to my beautiful wife to sleep? You think I don't want the comfort of my own home? Why? Because I was a soldier in the fight for unity. And so now when I hear some Johnny-come-lateys, some people who I never saw on the battlefield, come and try to tell me about unity. Come and try to tell me about sacrifice. Come and try to tell me about who contributed what. I say, get away from me. Be gone, the work of iniquity. You can't come and tell me. Because if them little boats had ever sunk out there, Mark Brantley would have been no more. My wife, God bless her, would have been a widow. And my children would have been fatherless. And many were in their beds sleeping, or maybe listening to Win FM, or Freedom FM, or whichever FM. I was on the battlefield. And I had with me the people in my party who are on the battlefield. And I want to make that pellucid. I say it not to boast. I say it not to create rancor. I say it because it is factual. And so now all of a sudden, I hear people saying all kinds of things. As if they forget who it is that they're dealing with. And I tell people all the time, you know, I don't care what they say. One of my very dear friends, one of the best advisors I've ever had, I'm sure one of these days he would look back and say, with all the advice I gave this fellow, I should have sent him a bill. You know, he calls me the campaigner in chief. That's what he always calls me, the campaigner in chief, because I know how to campaign. And I'm saying to all of us that you see this CCM party here, it would be a mistake to take it lightly. It would be a mistake to take it lightly. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my story for this evening. CCM. CCM. Leadership you can trust. And that's why we're keeping the momentum. Now, it's 1:15. Before I open the lines, I gather that there's been some foolish chatter on one of the greatest talk show programs that we have in radio in the region, Let's Talk, where the heavyweights gather. I used to be there until I lose some weight, and they throw me off and tell me go and get my own show. I'm too slim now for the heavyweights. That's okay. I hear there was some foolish chatter about Mark Brantley and his government buying some land and some house to get house for the premier. I had heard something some weeks ago, but I did not pay it any mind, because I said to myself, since I have known myself, God has blessed me with a roof over my head. I consider it a privilege. But I have a home. My wife put two words on it. I can't even pronounce them properly. She's the one who knows about them things. One fella tell me the house name, Ilang Ilang. Ilang Ilang. When you go in the registry, ask them about Ilang Ilang. And you will see there on the title, Mark and Sharon Brantley. That, through the grace of God, belongs to me and my wife. So what are you trying to say? That me not have nowhere to live? That I am somehow seeking a home away from home? What nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, the government was approached by a lawyer here. I won't get into who the lawyer is, but a lawyer approached us. And the lawyer says her client has a house, which is a nice house, but one that has seen some wear and tear. But most importantly, a large parcel of land with the house that they want to sell for $1 million US. They offered the government terms on payment, and we've been trying our best to pay off it. We want to expand the cemetery because we understand that the main cemetery here at what we call the Britannic, that we're having space issues. So we look into the future. And so we acquired a large tract of land at a very attractive price, which happens to have an old house on it. Where this chatter come from about the premier build house for himself? You know, in a way I feel slightly insulted, you know, because people making me out to be homeless. I am not homeless. Once the grace of God is with me, I hope when I leave here, I will go home to Ilang Ilang. That's where I rest my head. So I sometimes wonder at what passes as sensible conversation among sensible people. That the premier look in a house, go build house for himself. The premier. That's quite foolish. But if even there was a structure somewhere that was the premier's residence, it don't belong to Mark Brantley, you know. Well, what do you think? That Mark Brantley will always be premier? Sim Daniel was a premier. Vance Amry was a premier. Joseph Parry was a premier. Premiers come and premiers go. That is the nature of life. It takes me back to what I was saying earlier. So if a building is put up as the premier's residence, clearly for official purposes, what is the problem with that? The government has no plans to do so. But I'm simply saying, if even that was done, whether by us or another government were to decide to do so, what's the problem? The premier sometimes has to entertain people. The premier has a cocktail. The premier has some event. What's the problem? I have gone to Jamaica, a much bigger country, I admit. But there's a place called Vale Royal in Jamaica. That is the official residence of the Prime Minister. But in my time, I knew the then Prime Minister P.J. Patterson well because his son and I are best friends. And Mr. Patterson, the Prime Minister, lived up in, I think what they call it, by Norbrook or Cherry Gardens, one of those places where his house is. He didn't live at Vale Royal. Vale Royal was there when he had a dignitary come in and they were having a reception or something. They had it at Vale Royal. No different to when something is happening, you have it at the Deputy Governor General's residence. I don't see Mrs. Hailita Lai with her honor living in Bath. She has a beautiful home in Brown Hill. So our people need to start to, in my mind, expand their minds. And really, when you hear people with foolishness, condemn it for what it is, foolishness. and not make us out as if like we gone in government to get house. That is not me, you know. That was a different chap. You have the wrong leader if you start to talk about who look in house and land. I went into government with mine. Me not get it in government. So understand that. Understand that. That some go into government because they want to come up in life. Some go into government after they've already accomplished something. And they do not look to government to sustain them. And I think that that is an important distinction. It is now 10 to the hour of 9 o'clock. I'm going to open the lines and see if anybody out there wants to talk to me. I hope so. But if nobody wants to talk to me, I'll talk for the other hour and something. You know why? Because I had some jacks before I came here. Fried jacks. I know Madam Minister of Health and David Walvin and all of them will get upset when I say I had fried jacks. But as the young people say, bang good. So I'm feeling energetic. I'm feeling, what I say? Jiggy. You know, like how fish that jump in the water, that's how I'm feeling. So please call in 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. But if you don't call in, I will continue to talk. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show. But just understand, well, people are calling, so let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mark Brantley.
You're on the mark, go ahead.
Good evening, sir. I was told to call you tonight and make sure I call you early.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Mark Brantley, I listened to you a while ago. Very good presentation. But let's move on from the presentation. And this by now, I'm going to state my name, and my name is Curtis Cook. I heard you tonight say about the YouTube, people see stuff on YouTube and the whole 9 yards. Well, I know we have an incident at the airport, okay, with the minister, where I saw a video with the minister, Patrick Liebert, at the airport concerning security. I called you sometime last year concerning my same situation to do with security. And for some reason, I didn't think I'd get an answer, I didn't think I'd get anywhere. But at the moment, we now seen a video with the said minister with what happened at the airport concerning security. And I've been waiting for the longest while for a report, because they say you're supposed to do a report. I haven't seen any report on me. I don't know, I got a letter. My ID was revoked with immediate effect. No consultation, nothing. He's a man like to talk about people must speak to people, consultation, we must do this and we must do that. Well, I'm a citizen of this country, Mr. Bradley. The good thing about the situation, in my situation, is that the good company I work for did not fire me, because I'm a very good worker. 25 years, 23 years working for the company. Up until this day, nobody could give me any answers based on the situation. But I saw the video, I have video, analyzed the video with everything what happened with the minister. We're going to other details because I see other incidents. But you guys, like I said, don't say, because you don't have everything, hard evidence, but aside from my two eyes. So based on this video, Mr. Brantley, I think as a citizen of this country, I need answers. You see, because we're seeing everything going on, and I listened to you tonight, and as I say again, listen to your presentation based on what you're saying. I don't think that the leader on this end has the right, and people they have the right to be treating people the way how they treat people in this country. I listen to you say you fight the fight, and you fought your fight to get where you be today. Well, I think the ordinary citizens have the same privilege to fight the fight, speak the truth, be counted, and not be disrespected. So we need some answers concerning the situation with the said minister and the video that is out at the moment, and some answers based on the situation where my ID was revoked with immediate effect. Up until today, none of you guys have come to me, give me a call, sit down, discuss anything. So that is my presentation for tonight.
Okay.
Have a good night, Mr. Barney.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your call, Mr. Crook. I certainly appreciate your call. What I can say is that I really do not know anything about your situation in terms of you saying an ID was revoked. If an ID was revoked for you, that would have to be SCASPA. That does not fall to my administration. And so I would not know any details specifically. I've heard things said on the air. If you have not been spoken to about it, then certainly there are avenues I believe that you can pursue. I don't need to tell you what those are, but certainly I can't speak to that. The other matter that you've spoken about, where you say a video has been circulated, the radio station and news reporter in St. Kitts asked me about that matter some months ago. I indicated at the time that as Minister of Aviation, we had been made aware through media reports of this breach of security, alleged breach, let me use that language, and that we would be investigating the matter. That report, and I can call his name Ken Richards because he has been dogged in his pursuit of this story. He got in touch with me a couple of times. He asked, where's this report? And I made it pellucid that my job as Minister of Aviation was to make a report to the Prime Minister's office, to the Cabinet. Or let me put it this way, through the Prime Minister's office to the Cabinet. That is who I need to report to. It is not for me to come to the public to report on an investigation that was done. I do not feel that that is my role. That would have to be a decision that the Cabinet takes or the Prime Minister's leader of this country would take. More recently, I was again contacted by the media and I was told that some video had circulated and was in the public domain. I had not seen any such video as Minister of Aviation. I had heard about videos, but none had ever been produced, nor had I ever seen any such video. A copy of that video was delivered to me, and I handed that copy over to the technical people in the ministry who are the ones who advise on aviation matters and who are the experts, if you will. Those experts have done their own analysis. They have come to their conclusions, and consistent with what I think my duty is, those conclusions have been passed to the office of the Prime Minister, where I said I will report the matter to. If there's any further movement on that matter, it has to be a decision for the leader of the country and for the Cabinet. It is not for me, sir, with respect, to come and answer you on air to tell you what the findings might have been. So that is my position. People may not agree, but that is how I see my duty. And I believe I've done my duty and my office has done what it needs to do in terms of any commentary, any findings based on the technical people who are available to me and the experts in the Ministry of Aviation. Beyond that, I am unable to go. And that will be my response if anybody were to ask about the matter. Let me go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Honorable Premier. How your night is going?
My night is going fairly well, thank you. How can I help? What's going on?
I'll be giving thanks. I'm just here on the follow-up last time you had an engagement when you was on your program before you went into this independence celebration and other things you went to travel on. But one of the things I would like to follow back up on the last time I engaged you is the aspect of the reparation status within the St. Kitts and Nevis affairs towards the commission that established on the CARICOM. And the other thing that we need to know from you as being the Minister of Foreign Affairs and knowing that you stated boldly that you have diplomatic ties, you have been signing with some African countries, and we like to know how the progress is going within those signatories that you all are part of within the African ties that you're engaging for our people in these shores of St. Kitts and Nevis and even the wider part of the region of the Caribbean. So these are the two matters I would like to see you can address as a concern, because we realize that this administration that you are part of, or you're playing a tick for tack when it comes to the issue on reparation. And we need to really see a committee fully adopt what was established before, because we had a committee already. And that committee have done incline some work in progress, need to continue so we can pursue cases against our former colonial master, where you all are still engaging in the laws that they have on our control. You have a safe night, Mr.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution. Just to let you know, because when we were in New York, this issue arose again about Africa, that this government has taken a very strong position that we will seek to cultivate relationships with Africa. We have insisted, and I have insisted, that Africa is our motherland, that we are of the African continent. We are part of the African diaspora, the so-called sixth region of Africa. And since I've been Minister of Foreign Affairs since 2015, we have formalized relations with Kenya, the Gambia, Senegal, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Gabon, Eswatini, which was formerly Swaziland, Togo, Sao Tome and Principe, Rwanda. Those are the countries. And we have signed visa-free arrangements, meaning that our people can now travel to their countries without a visa and vice versa. With, I'm going through my list here, Sierra Leone, with Kenya, with Zambia, that's 3, with Rwanda, that's 4, with the Gambia, that's 5, with Ghana, although Ghana is limited to diplomatic and official passports, with Togo. Those are the countries. So I say that to say, caller, that we have been making some progress in relation to our diplomatic engagements with the mother country. I will add, with the mother continent, let me be clear. I will add that the OACS has made a decision to open an embassy in North Africa, in Morocco, in Rabat, and that Mr. Quealy, our former Commissioner of Police, a national of St. Kitts and Nevis, is now the ambassador for the OACS in Rabat. I gather that a decision has also been taken at the heads level to open an office in Addis Ababa, an embassy in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, because the intention is to have a closer relationship with the African Union. You would recall that President Uhuru Kenyatta was recently in our region, and he convened a meeting in Barbados. Regrettably, our Prime Minister was unable to attend. But nevertheless, coming out of that meeting is, again, a closer relationship between Africa and the Caribbean, and a commitment to having CARICOM meeting with the African Union. I think that's a very powerful development that has in part been led by St. Kitts and Nevis and our thrust. So I entirely accept that more needs to be done, but a lot of work has already been done as well. Let's go back to the phone. Somebody's holding. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening, Honorable.
Good evening to you.
I wanted to address something that has taken place here at Quaracourt. The landmark Big Rock was taken down last week without consultation, without anybody saying anything to anybody, so there is no longer a Big Rock in Quaracourt. And I don't know what Historical and Conservation Society, along with Planning Department, what reasons were given, whatever. So nobody said anything. I just got home and Big Rock was gone. So I don't know what you can say, who we should consult in hindsight, because it's no longer there. Okay?
All right. My brother, I know that some road works have been done in Quaracourt. I myself was not aware that Big Rock had been taken down. The Honorable Spencer Brand is the Minister of responsible for works. He perhaps would be the best person. I have not been updated on that matter, so I really cannot speak to it, and I don't like to speak to things that I don't know about. But,
yeah, but I think he should come to say something.
Well,
we did it because of this or because of that, but that should have done before.
All right, and it is your view that Big Rock had some historic significance. That is your argument?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, well, I can't answer that. I do know that sometimes when you're doing, I remember when we did Hermitage Road. There was a man-support tree, I think, or something there, and there was some arguing that the tree should remain. I think the view, the view was that the tree would fall in the middle of the road, and therefore the tree could not remain, and so the tree was removed.
What I'm more concerned about is the discussion.
Okay.
Because, the municipal tree, I understand that discussion and argument, but we just got up at the next day, the Big Rock.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
All right, well, I take your view, caller. As I said, I do not have the information, but I certainly will have a chat with the minister and seek to find out why there was no discussion on it, or whether there was a feeling that there need not be a discussion, I do not know. I can't speak to it, but I do know that it must be as a result of the ongoing road works as we try to improve Craddock Road after nearly 40 years. I'm
and that part of it.
All right? Okay. Thank you very much. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We continue to take your calls. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello? Hello? Okay, that caller isn't there. Let's try this caller. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mark Brantley.
Good evening to you.
And good evening to the listeners home and abroad. Carl Brown here. Honorable Mark Brantley, I want to touch on two issues. And these issues going to be concerning elections. One, I would like to see, and I have discussed this on shows where a number of people would agree. It's concerning our vote that we cast on election day. At 6 o'clock or 6:30, we would be having vehicles moving the boxes of the voters to a strategic point where they have to be counted. Suggestion, why not have these count at the voting station? We already have security there. We have representatives of all the parties and organizations that are taking part in the election. Why not?
Hello?
Yes. Why not count the votes them right there? Call up the persons who give in the count and give the count from right there. Instead of having the vehicles moving all around the constituency, picking up all these boxes to bring them to one strategic point in Bastia or in Charlestown to count them. And then we have about 45,000 people taking part in the election. And all 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock the next morning, you can get a result to see who is the winner. Those are the two things I would like to look at. Why 45,000 people? We start counting votes at 6 o'clock, and why 6 the next morning you can get a outright winner? We have elections in America and many other places with millions of votes. They start counting between 6 and 8 o'clock, and by 12, 1 o'clock, you know who is the winner. We like a village in those places there, and we can get 45 or less thousand votes count up to sometime 8 o'clock the next day. So I would like that suggestion when you all go to Monday meeting, you all could start discussing that, and we could start making some preparation for these two things to be done. Count the votes right where the people voted, the securities are there already, sending the count. Don't have the boxes them moving up and down the place, and we must get a result by 12 o'clock. It's only 45 or less thousand people.
Okay. All right, caller, got you.
I'm done.
Okay, I understand you. I think you make some powerful points. There's nothing I could usefully add. And the hope would be that as we continue to talk about electoral reform, these are some of the issues I know that really bother people. You make a very powerful point about the handful of voters we have here and why it takes so long. Barbados, all the countries, Jamaica, all of them have elections, and they get their results before. I know because sometimes it's all midday the next day that I'm getting mine. I make a joke all the time with my dear friend Josette Myers, because she tends to be the person counting, and she has the longest job, because once you're counting for Mark Brantley, you know that his is going to call last and he's going to call the next day, and for whatever reason. So you have a very good point, and I know it because I've lived it a long time. And I don't know why it is that it takes this long, or why it is they move the boxes, as you say, but I think that these are matters that, as we continue the discussion about electoral reform, are matters that need to be looked at. 10 past the hour, let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Yeah, good evening again, Mr. Mark Buckley.
Yes, good evening to you.
I like the way you answer the question. And you see, these are some of the stuff where the politicians need to go to Parliament and start out the citizens. Now, get the report, you pass it to, you said, which, you're right, you cannot bring it to the public, that's okay, I don't have a problem with that. You pass it now, you said, to the Prime Minister. Did you?
Yes, I was very clear that the matter has been passed on to the head of government.
The question now, Mr. Mark Buckley, would the public, would the citizens see the report? Would anything be done based on the report if it's wrong or right? Now, the other part was troubling to me. The only option I have is to go to court. Mr. Buckley, these things cannot be right for the citizens of the country. If I'm guilty, Mr. Brantley, I'm 100% wrong. But up until today, I haven't been proven to be guilty. But the only option a poor man have in 2019 is to go to the court. When am I going to reach to the court? I have to find money for lawyer. I have to find the owner yard. But when this ordinary citizen do something that is wrong, he dragged to the court as quick as possible. These are the things we're talking about, Mr. Brantley. Who is defending the ordinary man? Where's the ordinary man's voice? Mr. Brantley, I've never been to the court in my life. I had 15 long years on the airport. I've never, ever been into a management meeting, office, to talk about any behavior. Never, ever, ever. 23 years with the company, never, ever been into a meeting with any issues to say, well, any little foolishness. But the problem I'm having today, based on what you're saying to me, I don't have no other recourse. The man in charge, he decided to get up one day, revoke the immediate effect, and that's the end of my story. A year later, nobody could tell me anything. But now we saw a video. What took place, my humble professional opinion and all the years I've been on the airport, based on when I look at the video, the same training what they give. Come on, it said it all. And you know what's so touching, Mr. Brantley? I listened to passages in the United States of America, sitting next to the Prime Minister, concerning the same issue. You know what he said? I didn't walk around the machine. I walked through the machine. You know what I observed, Mr. Brantley? He bumped the Prime Minister, and it was a laugh. When are we going to finish with these kind of behavior, Mr. Brantley? This is the thing I'm talking about. Mr. Brantley, I'm a labor in the village. And I said to Congress, if my son decides to be a PAM, Congress should have the right to go after my son, to mother my son. Mr. Brantley, these are the things we need to start to look at. The citizens must be able to be free and fair to to express themselves.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
All right, you too. And I think that you have been free and fair and have had every opportunity to express yourself, not once, but twice tonight on a large platform here on The Mark. So you could hardly complain that you don't have that opportunity. Frankly, I feel that the people in this country have the opportunity, the freedom, and that is the maturity of our democracy, to express themselves. So I don't agree that people don't have that opportunity. I take your view that, as you say, sometimes when things happen, but frankly, what am I to say to you? If somebody feels aggrieved by a particular decision or a particular position, then the ordinary recourse is to seek some legal redress or some legal advice. There's very little else I can say to you. There used to be an office of the ombudsman. I don't know if it's still functional, but it never really did anything. And that office was designed to deal with some of these types of issues. But ordinarily, where somebody feels aggrieved by a decision taken by a government or some government functionary, then the best I can say to you is to take advice. But beyond that, I cannot go. And I do not know, again, the specifics. And so I've given you an opportunity to ventilate your view. And I think that that is, in fact, a demonstration of the openness, maturity of our democracy. It is 9:15, and we're going to continue to take your calls. Good evening, you're on The Mark.
Hello?
Yes, you're on The Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, good night, Mr. Premier again. I realize I asked a question about reparation. I mean, you give no response, but Well, I call back for basically, but I hope you give me a response when I come out the phone. I call back to the aspect of the session was just gone from the United Nations General Assembly, and there was some level of discussion taken towards climate change and making sure there was a signatory about the abandonment of the nuclear warheads or something in that context. If you could put it on the right turn, please, if I'm not putting it in the right correct aspect of how it's supposed to be. But one thing I would like to say, if the world is really serious when it comes to the United Nations General Assembly, considering about abandoning the warheads and the nuclear weapons then, and we still find that there is guns and bullets making every day in our world. We are not turning the point strongly. We are just considering to make buck out of how we can continue to dominate our world in seeing wars and illusion coming upon our people's shores. So I hope that you all didn't take that session for no liming status, but to put the emphasis against those developing countries that call America and Canada and all Japan and England and those who create guns and bombs and all those things that they emphasize in their defense as, for they say, their security purposes. We like to say it's time now to stop make those kind of sophisticated weapons that can destroy humanity. If you really serious about changing the development of how the world affairs are looking at, we need to really put these emphasis against those developing countries, because they are the ones hurting the world in the way it's supposed to be. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go back to the phones and continue to take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Premier.
Good evening to you. I haven't heard your voice in some time. How are you?
Good, good. I listened to a little piece of your program last Thursday, but I have a comment to make. You think you got any call on the radio when people got to listen cricket?
Well, I tried the best.
I hear one gentleman calling.
Well, what you want me to cancel the show?
Oh, no, no.
Well, that's what I said. That's why I don't eat good and drink good. So when I come here, if I have to talk to myself all night, I do that.
Anyway, Premier, yes. I have a question for you. The little bit I got,
yes.
you were talking about the visa, and that I want to quote you correctly. I don't want to get wrong with it. I don't know if you use the word jealous, but you said that the U.S. Embassy want to do something like what the Canadian is doing with the visa. Now, we can stay here and send our information to them, or we still have to go to Barbados?
No, the U.S. has granted us what they call a visa interview waiver. Normally, everybody has to go to Barbados because that is the embassy for our region. Okay. That is Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. So if you're from St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Kitts Nevis, Antigua, you have to go to Barbados to get a visa. The United States government has granted Barbados, St. Kitts Nevis, Grenada, and St. Lucia the privilege of saying that their people do not have to travel to Barbados anymore once they have had a visa before. So if you've had a visa, I think they say within the last 12 months, if memory serves. That is if your visa has expired, forgive me, in the last 12 months. Because part of their thing is that when you go to Barbados, they take your fingerprints and what they call biometrics. And so they're saying, well, you do not need to come back because they have your biometrics already. And so if you are applying for a new visa, you can do that online. And so our people are saving thousands of dollars by not having to travel. However, if you are a first-time applicant, you still have to go to Barbados.
Why I asked the question is because I wanted to be clear. Because I would have had visas and visas and visas, and mine is expired.
When did it expire? How long ago?
Maybe long time now. Me didn't bother with it, so maybe since 15 or sometime. 2015? About that time, maybe. 15, 14, 15.
Okay, well, I think when they made the announcement, they had said that if you had a visa that had expired within the last year, so yours might be too late. I'm going to see if I can find something here, but that was my understanding.
Well, Mr. Brandley, let me say something to you. One might say that persons with disabilities, they do travel some travel a lot. So they might, I wonder if they would think of persons with disability, that it would come to a point where they could say, okay, they can send their stuff or whatever. Especially if they would have had it years ago, even when they had visa and so.
Well, there's no special arrangement for people with disabilities as far as I'm aware. It might be something that one can raise, but at this juncture, there is none.
Well, that's why I'm asking you as well, as the minister with foreign affairs and stuff. What can you do for us?
Well, we can ask the question, but one thing I will say to you, candidly, not a soul influences the United States when it comes to visa. So
no,
all we can do is ask and agitate.
Yeah, nothing
and
is
hope
wrong
for the
with that.
best.
Nothing is wrong with that.
Yes.
You know? Okay, you keep good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
God bless. All right. Anybody else? Let's stick with the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello?
Yes, sir. Good evening,
You're
sir.
on the mark. Go ahead.
Carl Brown here again. Another thing I would like to suggest in terms of elections again. The Prime Minister have gone to Parliament and requested that 2 terms for Prime Minister. I do support that, and I think it's something long overdue. What I would like now is that the team, parliamentary team, would go to Parliament and set an election date, that the Prime Minister must not walk up and down with the election date in his back pocket, that the whole world must know that the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis would be having election on such and such a date. So all parties, all voters, and intended voters would know that at this date, in this year, that St. Kitts Nevis election is happening.
Okay. Well, call yes.
2 terms of Prime Minister, I have no problem with that. But I want to know when the election date, not the Prime Minister have all of us waiting.
Okay. Well, I think many of us, including myself, would agree with you. I think in most countries, they do have a sense of what the election date is going to be, so that there are no surprises. It takes away that strategic element where a Prime Minister could spring an election at any time. And it is a fairer process. So I agree with you on that.
Yes.
You won't get any
another thing concerning that. You see, if an election date is set, that government that is in, after 2.5 years or 3 years, and they see they got the mandate of the people and the polls them give them high rating, that they don't go and call a snap election when I vote them in for a 5-year term.
Okay, well, I understand that, and that is why I'm saying I agree. It takes away that strategic advantage, and it puts everybody on a more even playing field. So I'm not arguing with that.
You must serve out that term, and then we know the election is that date in that year.
All right, well,
all
right, I got you. Just to this lady who called, ma'am, in relation to the visa interview waiver, United States, as of the 10th of September last year, 2018, there will be no need for an interview at the U.S. Embassy in Bridgetown, Barbados, when St. Kitts Nevis passport holders are renewing their visas. A statement from the embassy said, as part of the U.S. government's continuing efforts to improve customer service and streamline the visa process, they are pleased to announce the implementation of interview visa waivers in Barbados for qualified applicants wishing to renew their U.S. visas effective September 10th. St. Kitts Nevis passport holders, with the exception of citizenship by investment passport holders, may qualify for visa renewal interview waiver if their previous visa expired within the past 12 months. So that is, as of September 2018, if your previous visa had expired within the previous 12 months, and they are applying for the same visa category as the previous visa. The applicant must be physically present in St. Kitts and Nevis or within the consular district of the U.S. Embassy in Bridgetown, Barbados to be eligible. Additionally, the previous U.S. visa must be in the applicant's possession, and the applicant must have submitted a 10 fingerprint scan in conjunction with the previous visa application. So, that is the current position. So if it is your visa expired since 2015, regrettably, you will not qualify but will have to go back to Barbados. Through the benefit of technology, to the gentleman who called about the stone at Big Rock and said there was no consultation, I've just received a message and said that the matter was discussed at the town hall meeting held in December 2018 to discuss the Craddock Road reconstruction project. So there was some measure of ventilation of this particular issue. So apparently there was a town hall meeting in Craddock Road in December 2018 and the matter was discussed. I have a further message that was sent to me to say that the Big Rock that we all know was in the way of the new road that is being constructed. And that matter clearly, as I said, was ventilated at a town hall meeting in December of 2018. I hope that that satisfies the caller. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening to the listening public. The gentleman called in earlier about the concern about Big Rock.
Yes.
I seem to remember at the town hall meeting in Handley's Road, somebody mentioned their concern about the rock at Chicken Stone, where they had so many accidents.
Yes.
And Minister Brand addressed it. And in addressing it, he did mention Big Rock. That was the first time I heard, I know there was a concern about Big Rock. A couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine drew it to my attention that the rock has had some serious splitting, cracking.
Which rock you're talking about? Big Rock?
Big Rock.
Yes, okay.
And that there was a piece that was in a precarious position, and no one knows when if it's going to fall or when it's going to fall. And if it does, nobody knows what's going to happen. Hearing tonight that the Big Rock has been taken down, I would have thought that that was a good move. I traverse that area regularly, and it poses some difficulty in maneuvering in that area because the rock is one of the issue. And if it's down now, at least they could widen the area and make it more workable.
Well, I mean, my brother, let us face it, right? At one point in Nevis, you didn't have roads. You had donkey truck and cat truck, right?
There you go.
And you had to create roads. At one point in Nevis, we didn't have all houses. We created those. At one point in Nevis, you didn't have big pier and didn't sink as Deepwater Harbor and Port Zante. You created those. And at every step of the way, you have to strike a balance.
Mr.
People,
Bradley, I don't know there's any disadvantage in taking the rock down.
well, but while you will say there's no disadvantage, I could also understand that some people, particularly people from the area, may have a sense of nostalgia. Because Big Rock, everybody know about Big Rock and Craddock Road. You identify Big Rock and everybody know from Nevis know you're talking about Craddock Road. And that's why I made the analogy. Just hold for a minute, caller. Just hold for a minute. That's why I made the analogy about Hermitage. Because when we had the town hall in relation to Hermitage, one person up there made a bit of a song and dance and said there's a Mansiport tree that he used to get Mansiport from as a child, and he don't want to see the tree uprooted. But when the guys did the measurement, the tree had to go if we were going to have a modern roadway. And so these things happen, and I believe what the caller was getting at was he said there was no consultation. So I don't think that he was saying that it was good or bad. He was just saying that there should have been some consultation. And that is why, as I said, somebody just sent me something to say that in fact the matter was discussed. Just to point out to you that at the town hall meeting held by my government in Handley's Road, when the issue of the rock at Stony Grove, at Chicken Stone was raised, that Minister Brand has since gone there and done some work. I don't know if you are aware of that.
Of course,
Yes.
I know. And what I'm saying is that when he addressed that problem with the citizen that raised the issue, he did mention Big Rock.
Yes, okay. You're right, yes. Uh-huh. Hello? Hello?
About Big Rock being there. Yeah, yeah. I'm
yes.
saying and that to the effect that he was having complaints from people about the Big Rock. So I don't know. Some people are complaining and some people are saying that there wasn't any discussion.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Just before you go, the other concern I have is the town hall meeting.
Yes.
Town hall meetings, a series of town hall meetings that the CCM administration had. It's a very good idea. It was dubbed the conversation with the people.
You plan to restart them soon, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
My concern, though, is, Mr. Brantley, is that the people at the head table take most of the time and give the people who you're having a conversation with very little time. Apart from the presentations from all at the head table, there was a video show, and it's kind of like a repetition of in itself. I also noticed that looking at NNC one night, the town hall there was a town hall meeting that came on, and it's only the presentation by the ministers that was aired, and the video that was shown. Again, a repetition, but the discussion from the people was not included. Am I to take from that the people are not that important? It's only a monologue.
Well, I don't know why you would take that from that, because I saw you at a town hall and I didn't know you didn't have enough time. You got up and you spoke and you said what you had to say.
Yeah,
so the reality is...
I really wanted to address another problem, but I was told that the time has run and we have to go.
Well, I don't know who told you that, because
that was said in the town hall meeting.
Well, I don't know. I was there. I recall you got up, you at the mic.
You should have heard it because it was said.
So somebody took the mic from you?
Mr. Liebert said that, and I was waiting to get the microphone, and the honorable, the king who had the mic told me that they're closing.
So you had the mic, you made one point, you sat down, and then later you wanted the mic again, but we closed off. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I was saying.
So when you had the mic, you didn't say all that you had to say?
Because it was something that came up.
Oh, I see.
It was something that came up.
All right. I hear your caller. The idea really is for us to use these as an opportunity to report to the public, and then, as you say, to take questions and to try to answer those questions. I will seek to speak to my colleagues to adjust, but the reality is when you have 4 or 5 people making presentations, we understand it can eat away at the time. But certainly we will take that on board so that people will have more time within which to ask their questions. But of course, we encourage people who attend the town halls to come prepared as well with their questions, so that if there are issues that they would want to ventilate, that they do so as well. So I think that is going to be important. But when we're there, we're on the clock, because clearly we're paying for airtime and we have to cut off at a particular time. But I take what you're saying on board, and I want to assure you that the reason we're doing it is because we want to hear from people. We want them to hear our report, and we want to get their feedback. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no conversation.
Well, Mr. Brantley, there was a point that Minister Jeffers made about the price of pork at $4.50, and that the local farmers are selling at $10. And there was an elderly lady from Cook's Ground who made a presentation defending her side of it. But even after that, Minister Jeffers still repeated the claim that people are saying they want $10 a pound for.
Well, so Cole, I'm not understanding you. So because a citizen comes and makes a case, the minister has to accept that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's supposed to be a conversation, and it should have been taken into consideration.
But what? But I still don't understand. So if you get up,
Well,
if you get up and you have a view,
Mr. Brantley,
yes.
Mr. Brantley, I'm just trying to put forward a point, an observation.
Yes.
The lady got up and she made the case that after she paid $45 a bag for how many bags to feed that pig, she does not see how she could sell it for less than $10 a pound.
Okay.
It's an exercise in futility.
Okay.
And Mr. Jeffers, who isn't a pig farmer and said so himself, I mean, I wouldn't really argue that point because I'm not a pig farmer, but I run another little business that I see where she's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And to have meetings where we're just spewing, allegations and making points that nobody can rebut or what nobody else have to say matters. It's an exercise in futility.
Well, caller, I disagree with you. I disagree with you. You
disagree. Just a minute, Mr. Brantley.
Well, I mean,
disagree. But
yes.
What I'm saying is, if it's a conversation with the people,
yes,
let's have a conversation, not a monologue.
But, all right, okay, caller, let's leave it there because we're not going forward in this thing because you keep talking about monologue, but here you say a lady from Cook's Ground got up and made her case. You got up because I know who I'm talking to.
It wasn't even considered.
Well, how do you know it wasn't considered? Because the minister said.
Because the minister repeated the same thing again.
Okay, all right, caller. As I said, let us agree to disagree because, frankly, I don't accept that what you're saying is either reasonable or valid. Because if I come to a town hall meeting,
Mr. Brantley, that is how politicians are.
caller,
it must be their way or the highway.
but caller, I am trying to. Well, you see now, I am trying to have a conversation with you, but you won't let me have a word. So if you are going to lecture me about conversations, let us understand that a conversation involves two people, one listen, one talk.
Mr. Brantley,
right?
I've made my point.
Okay, so you made your point, fine. Now, let me say this. In a town hall meeting, a point is made. Somebody gets up from the audience and they make a point. It doesn't mean that the conversation is any less valuable because I say, well, I understand you, I hear you, but I stick to the argument that I made. That doesn't mean that the conversation is worthless.
That was not what was said, Mr. Brantley.
Right? Somebody, well, caller, I mean, let us, come on. Listen, I know you and I know you know better.
Right? You know me and you know better.
You stood up in that meeting, you made your point.
Please do not belittle me like that.
I'm not belittling you at all.
I'm making a valid...
Caller, listen, let us agree to disagree because at this juncture, really and truly, we're not advancing the discussion. Because it appears to me that you are saying that in a town hall meeting, that anybody gets up and says something, I am obligated to agree with them. And I'm saying that is clearly not the case.
Mr. Brantley, let me deal with it. Let me deal with it from a different standpoint.
Let me hear this different standpoint.
I operate a small business.
Yes.
When I need to buy tires, I need to buy fuel. There's certain expenses that are there, and if the expenses are above what I get in, I have to charge a certain price.
Yes.
There are prices that are studied and put out by no less an organization than Public Works. And we still have people trying to pay less than that. We're already running at a loss.
Okay, caller. All right.
People feel that we could do better when
Okay.
that is not the case.
All
And
right.
I know that for a fact.
Okay.
I know that for a fact.
All right.
I mean, when we have government ministers trying to tell people, well, you say that this costs $10 a pound, and nobody could tell you how you come by it. Have you listened to anybody? That's my point.
Caller, I am hearing you, and I hear you, and you could go on all night making the same point. You're not going to persuade me. And that's because I'm a politician, is because I have been in these discussions about pricing for a while now, even on Synkits. In fact, they were bringing in experts the other day to teach farmers how to build up their price. Because a lot of people say, My thing costs $10 a pound. You ask them, how did you arrive at the $10? And they cannot tell you. All they will tell you is everybody know a pound of pork costs $10. Other places you go?
That's not what the lady was saying.
But all I'm saying to you.
And that is what Mr. Jeffers was saying.
Okay. All right, caller. We have spent enough time on this issue. We're taking up valuable airtime. Let's try and move on and get another viewpoint because some people are calling. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Greetings from New York.
Good. How's the weather there?
It's a little bit chilly, but okay.
All right.
We'll survive. It's not that cold yet.
Okay, good.
I just wanted to, leave something with you. It's just an inspirational quote. Always remember, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know.
Thank you,
Keep up
darling.
the good works. Keep the government afloat. And, God's wishes on you and the CCM government.
Thank you so much. Love it. Thank you. Tell everybody I say good night.
Mom, I say good night.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.
All right, good. Just going back to this caller. Caller, we had probably longer than necessary, but I just want to make my position clear. The government goes out to have a town hall meeting to inform the public and to hear from the public. It doesn't mean that everything that the government says in the meeting the public will accept. And it doesn't mean that everything the public says or members of the public say in that meeting the government will accept. It is a conversation like you say. You and I just had a conversation and I'm not convinced of anything you told me. And I'm pretty sure you're not convinced of anything I told you. But the conversation was nevertheless valuable. And the sense that I'm getting from you is that because a lady got up and said that a pound of pork should cost $10 because of how much she pays for feed, that nullifies, because if I recall, the point that the minister was making is a simple point. And I'm not taking a side to say right or wrong, but this is what the minister said. He said that he was having difficulty understanding how you could raise a pig in Brazil. You could have the expense of raising the pig with the same feed. You slaughter the pig and the cost of that. You cut up that pig. You refrigerate. You transport overland to get it to the port. You then ship it from Brazil to Miami. You then ship it again, store it there, transport it, ship it again from Miami to St. Kitts Nevis. You pay duty, customs, VAT on it. You ship it from the port to Rams or Best Buy or Value Mart. They put on their profit, and after all of that is $4.50 a pound. And he was saying, you compare that to a farmer in Nevis who gets a pig, raises that pig on a piece of land next to them, and then slaughters that pig by taking it to the abattoir half a mile away, and they say they cannot sell it for less than $10 a pound. That was the point that he was making. That he was asking farmers, is there a way to look at your price makeup? I mean, caller, let us face it. There was a time I know when people were selling fish at $8 a pound. Then it went to $10 a pound. I bought some fish the other day, it was $15 a pound. You ask the fisherman, well, how did the fish move from 8 to 10 to 15? That's almost 100% increase in the space of time. Can the fisherman give you a mathematical calculation to say, well, gas is this much, I travel these amount of nautical miles, my wire, my labor, and so I have to sell it at that to make a profit? That really is a science of pricing. And that is why I'm saying that I am not prepared to accept the view, because I know that in St. Kitts, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture over there was bringing in people to teach our local people how to build up your price. You take a heavy equipment man. You say, how much for this excavator? $350 an hour. How we get to that? How did he arrive at that price? That's all. I'm not saying the price is too high or too low. I'm saying that there has to be a scientific way in which you arrive at the price of $350 an hour. You need to be able to show that at that price, you're making this amount of profit. And that is the price you must charge because your diesel is so much, your parts, your labor, your etc. But what I find is that a lot of people here say, oh, Tom selling the fish for $15 when we carrying up the price too. Somebody selling the pork for 10. Well, I moving my price from 8 to 10 because $10 is the new price for pork. And the point the minister was making, I believe, was that if you were selling your pork at $8, you may end up selling more. And therefore, perhaps reducing your margin of profit, but increasing your sales. And there are different ways to do things. You don't find it strange, caller, that every excavator in Nevis, no matter the model, charges the same price per hour, that every backhoe charges the same price per hour, that every truck charges the same price per load, that every fisherman charges the same price for fish. So if I have some pots set here by Van, just off Van Radio, and I go out there and, man, I catch some good fish, I come in the same $15 a pound. To the man who goes out 30 miles and come in for the same $15 a pound. If I am raising a pig in my backyard, I'm not giving it any feed from the thing. I have mango and I have breadfruit and whatever, and I'm feeding my pig. If when I was a boy, they used to send me go look hog meat, as we call it. But when I come to sell, I say, well, pork selling for $10 a pound, the same $10 a pound. That is the point that we are trying to get to, where people have an appreciation of how the price is made up. What goes into the price? It can't be simply that rams are selling for that, so you're selling it for that. And that's what the minister was saying. I go over it again. If you can produce pork in Brazil, slaughter it, chop it up, refrigerate it, truck it to the port, refrigerate it in containers, sail it to Miami, refrigerate it, sail it to St. Nevis, pay customs, VAT, custom service charge on it, truck it to Rams. Rams put on the profit, and still is only $4.50 a pound. And then the man who got the pig from the backyard tell you he cannot sell for less than 10. So that is the argument. So we are saying, let us look carefully at this. It may be that some things are simply overpriced. And it equally may well be that some things are underpriced. But until you do the analysis, you don't know and I don't know. And there are a lot of people here in Nevis right now who engage in business and they don't know whether they're coming or going because they don't have an analysis going into. I talked to a restaurateur one time, and you know what he said to me? Every plate of food that is produced in his restaurant, he knows how much that plate of food costs him to produce. He had it down to a science. How much rice, how much chicken, how much whatever. And he could tell you that plate of food cost him $8 to produce. So when he sold a plate of food for $20, he knew that he had $12 in there of profit. And that, I think, is what we're trying to get to. It's not that what the lady said was invalid, or the minister was somehow being pig-headed because he know better than her, and he's not a pig farmer. I mean, come on. That's why I tell you I know you. And I've had numerous conversations with you. That's why I said it the way I said it. No effort to disrespect you, because I would never do that. But I know you because I feel that we ought to be free to have, as you say, a conversation. So you think because you know about truck and you come and tell me that you're going to charge me $500 an hour, I mustn't tell you that that is too much? Because you know about truck and I don't know about truck? Nothing to argue so. And you think because I'm a lawyer and you come and you tell me to do a little job for you and I tell you $5,000, you must not tell me, boy, Mark, you crazy? I mean, as you say, a conversation. And in a conversation, I don't need to agree with you. I can disagree with you while saying, well, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't agree. Nothing is wrong with that. The same town hall that you say, we come there to have, what you call it, monologue. The issue was raised about the dangerous nature at Chicken Stone. And within a matter of a week or so, Minister Brand sent the excavator, whatever he sent there, to make that place safer. I call that talk that gets results. I believe that's a term that Weber has a trademark on. So I don't want to sound too much like the great Weber Herbert tonight, but that's talk that gets results. So you could say we're not listening. When you have a clear example of a complaint made in the town hall and bam, the problem is solved. So I just feel sometimes, caller, that the point you made, that we probably need to leave more time for questioning, I agree. I agree with you. And I think as we continue this conversation, we'll try to adjust that. But let us not suggest that we're not listening, because that is not accurate. And the evidence doesn't support that at all. And the fact that you got up, I recall, you were very passionate about the overseas voter issue. See, it stayed with me. You were very passionate about it. So what do you think? That we simply dismissed your view? No. Your view is taken on board. But equally, if somebody else had got up in the audience and expressed the opposite view to you, what would you say? That the premier didn't listen to me, he listened to the other guy? It's a conversation, and in a conversation you have cut and thrust, you have give and take. And because you say don't make it gospel, and doesn't mean that I'm compelled to accept it. So let us understand the purpose of these town hall meetings is to share information and to get feedback. Some feedback will be even hostile. So because a man get up and a man say, I give 4 season workers $1,000 to go back to school, and some of them ain't got no picnic, and I shouldn't have do it that way, we said, okay, thank you very much for your view. But I wouldn't agree with that view. So let us, understand what it is we're seeking to do, and not try to minimize the importance of these interactions, because I think these interactions are important, and they should continue. But again, I agree with you, and I take on board that more time might be necessary, and we will look at that to make the adjustment. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Brantley?
Yes, you're on the mark. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. You talk about the thing that you went to think it, and you call Astros, you call everybody. That is after. You will be after. But what about when you were there? Who was holding your back? Who was holding your hand? Who was telling you, wait till the time, and one of these days you're going to come the premier, you end up and come. And who was there behind you all the time? You forget who was behind you, but you call Astro and them. They were there after. What about who was there before? Have a good night.
Well, for the record, Miss Rodney Elliott has always been a strong supporter. But I did not mention Rodney Elliott because I was mentioning those who went down on the boat with me at 2 o'clock in the morning. And Rodney was not one of those. So it is not a question of missing out anybody. I was speaking in a specific context. And that was those who went over to St. Kitts on a regular basis when I was appearing on the platform over there. So that is all I meant. So please forgive me that I didn't mention. Because if I start to call names tonight of those who have been there holding me up, some never come to a meeting yet, but I know they're praying for me. If I start to call names, I wouldn't finish, because it's hundreds and hundreds of people who have helped along this journey. But I don't want to minimize your contribution, because you have been someone who's always been there for me. But as I said, I was speaking to the specifics of when we went to St. Kitts for the campaign for unity. And I was making that point because, as I said, suddenly some people have come out of the woodwork who I don't know and have never seen. And all of a sudden they know who contributed and who did not contribute, and are seeking to minimize the contribution that we would have made, braving the high seas, going to St. Kitts. Let me tell you something. One morning I walked into my house after 2, and when I walked in, my phone at home rang. I said, that is strange. Who rang in my house at this hour? And it was a lady. I cannot recall her name, so you would forgive me. But she said to me that she's an elderly lady and she lives in Sandy Point. And she said, Mr. Brantley, I waited and I prayed that you'll get home safely, and I'm just calling now because I could not go to my bed knowing that you were on the high seas without knowing that you were safe. She said, I went in the phone book and I got your number, and I'm so happy now I can go to sleep. The lady told me she couldn't go to any meeting. She was not well, not mobile, but she listened to everything on the radio. This is somebody I didn't know, but who stayed up to make sure that I got home safely. So, when you talk about people who have contributed, there's so many. But thank you for yours. Thank you for yours. Let's go back to the phones. 5 minutes to the hour. Good evening. You're on the mark. Okay, we've lost that caller. Ladies and gentlemen, this show has been lovely tonight. If you're just tuned in, you listen to On the Mark. Straight talk across the narrows. My name is Mark Brantley. I've been here with you since 10 o'clock. And since 8 o'clock. I'm getting carried away. And it's now 5 minutes to 10. So, it means that if you've been listening, you've been having a rollicking good time. And if you haven't been listening and you just tuned in, well, you can listen tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Von Radio. We have about 5 minutes left, which means we can take 1 or 2 calls, if you're so minded. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show. And so we invite you to call in and share your views. We have been discussing many things tonight: unity, politics, CCM, the role of CCM, leadership and what it looks like. And the fact, I go back to, all of life is a stage. We have our entrances and our exits. I am on the stage now through the grace of God and the will of the people of Nevis. And when the time comes for me to exit, somebody else will be on the stage. I need not concern myself with that, because that is the inevitability of life. I am now 50. There was a point when I was 30. That point is gone. And if God is good to me and I get to 70 that he has promised, at some point I will be 70. And the man who was 50 would be gone. Gone forever. Because that is the nature of life. Some of us behave as if we're going to live forever, you know. Some of us behave as if we're going to be in some big chair forever. We're going to be in a position of power forever. The Bible tells us and reminds us that the nature of things, that today you're here, tomorrow, because we are but dust, ultimately. And some of us, we feel somehow that we are defined by these positions and not recognizing that at the end of the day, the position isn't ours. We're merely filling the role, holding the role for somebody else, because somebody will come. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Blessed night, Honorable Premier.
Yes, you have to be very quick. We only have a few minutes.
Yeah, I can be very quick
Yes.
with Mr. Honorable Premier, and it's very frank within the strength of knowledge and understanding. Now we find in this consideration we've seen around us.
Caller, you hear the band striking up? Get right to the point.
Okay. What I would like to say, Mr.
Yes.
Premier, is time we really agitate for human rights and equal rights and justice, whether it's the big country or the small country, because we cannot continue seeing unjustification going on to our people in the context of wars and rumors of war. Have a safe night.
Good, thank you very much. We have time for this final caller? We do not have time. I'm sorry, caller. We have somebody on the line, but I can't take the call. Please forgive me. But you know what the rules here are. When the band strikes up, it means we have to go. It's been a lovely show this evening. I'm delighted for those of you who stayed with me. I hope that I said something of interest. I hope that I would have said something of value. But if I did not, I will try again next week. That's our show. Thank you. Good night, and God bless you. For those of you who missed the show, you can listen tomorrow at 1. For those of you who listen tonight, some say it's so nice that they listen twice.